about Jimmy G to the Las Vegas Raiders. Did you see Jimmy G going here, man?
I'm not surprised. I love it for Jimmy G. I'm a Jimmy Garoppolo stan. If Jimmy G,
Hey, I like Jimmy too. I got a lot of respect for his
Jimmy
game. He's a winner, and you
yeah,
can't deny his resume.
if Jimmy G has 1,000 fans, I'm one of them. If he's got 100 fans, I'm one of them. If he has 10 fans, I'm one of them. If he has one fan, it's me. I mean, if he has no fans, I'm
Would
dead. I
that
love.
make you his only fan, sir? I
Probably
can't
would
believe
be.
I just said that on my
I
show.
probably would be his only fan. I love Jimmy
And everybody just jumped off the stream.
I don't think Jimmy G gets enough respect.
Yeah,
The
he
one thing
doesn't.
that's interesting,
Proven
and I
winner.
don't know off the top of my head where the Raiders are drafting this year. I believe it's 7th.
The Raiders feel
I-
like the team that would be stupid enough to pull the trigger on AR at 7. Realistically,
No.
they would be
No,
the
I
team
don't
to pull the
think they're
trigger
gonna
on
go.
Anthony Richardson.
No, they can't. Now that they've traded Darren Waller, they better go draft.
That's true too. Yeah, that's true
Like
too.
Jimmy G's good enough to just kind of he's gonna look. We've seen Jimmy and Jimmy we trust. We've seen Jimmy G make things
Porn
happen.
star
Here's
Jimmy.
the funny thing. And this is in all honesty, and I wish there's a way that you can like see the history of a note. I wish there's a way that you can do that. But as you know, I do an off-season series on my show for the NFL after the draft, and I do it in draft order. At number 7 for the Las Vegas Raiders, when I created this note, the title of that episode is going to be "In Jimmy We Trust." Now, of course, if Jimmy didn't end up in Vegas, I'd have had to rename the show. But
Yeah.
I thought Jimmy was going to go to the Raiders. It's the only place that really made sense. You've got Josh McDaniels there already. You have Devontae Adams. Like you have Hunter Renfro. Look, man. I'm a Jimmy G fan. I'm a Jimmy G stan. I'm a Jimmy G apologist, and I will go to bat for Jimmy G
for the next bar.
at all times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am. I probably would be Jimmy G's only fan. I mean, he's porn star Jimmy. He's familiar with it. He's familiar with the concept. So yeah, there you go.
Oh, I picked the right guest for the right topic. Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders, though. I definitely did not see him going to the Raiders out of all places. I got to give a shout out to this meme. It was like, man, the Raiders had photoshops from Brady, Lamar, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, and they got Jimmy G. And it's just, it's tough out here for the, God, I want to say the black and gold, but that's us for the black and silver, the black hole, whatever they call it out there in Vegas now. Clearly, we're talking about the Raiders. So this reunites Garoppolo with the Raiders head coach now, who is Josh McDaniels. And Josh McDaniels did coach Jimmy G as the offensive coordinator in New England at the start of the quarterback's NFL career. Talking about Jimmy G, of course, from 2014 to 2017. Patriots won 2 Super Bowls during Garoppolo's time there as Brady's backup. So, there's history, there's comfort, there's emotion all tied up in this one decision here. Jimmy G gets, for now, because we saw Darren Waller held out, which really sucked because that was going to be a safety blanket for Jimmy G. He gets Devontae Adams, who had the most receiving touchdowns in 2022, along with 100 catches, 1,500 yards. And then Josh Jacobs, who just led the league in rushing as well and is disrespectfully playing on a $10 million franchise tag right now. But the big question is this an upgrade or a downgrade for the Raiders? Not for Jimmy G, for the Raiders.
An upgrade or a downgrade from Derek Carr?
Yes.
Oh, it's a downgrade.
Really?
It's a downgrade because Derek Carr is the 11th best quarterback in football.
11th. Like, I like the calculation there. Thank you for putting some respect on the Who Dat Nation. Early and often.
Jimmy G at his best is 15th. So there's There's a 4 quarterback gap between Derek Carr and Jimmy G. Maybe Jimmy G's like 16th. Whatever. Point is, he's barely in the top half. Even though I love him and I think he doesn't get his respect, he's still barely in the top half. Derek Carr is the 11th best quarterback in football, so it's absolutely a downgrade. That's unfortunate, but like shout out to Derek Carr for knowing the Raiders wanted to trade him to the Saints.
Oh yeah.
No, and then sign with the Saints anyway. That is grown man behavior.
You ain't getting anything from me, boy.
Yeah, that's grown man behavior by Derek Carr.
Yeah. He definitely had to handle some grown man business. Alan, I agree with you. Say what you want about Jimmy G. He's a proven winner, though, at the end of the day. Can't forget that he was in the Super Bowl just a few years back. And I've always said it, right? I think it was Jaquiski Tartt. If Jaquiski Tartt picks Matt Stafford in the year that the Rams won the Super Bowl, Jimmy G's in a second Super Bowl. And he's probably making more money on this Raiders contract. I think this Raiders contract was, any NFL player is making bank, right? Even if you're making $700,000 minimum, like you're already a top 1% earner in the States, right? And then if he makes that one throw to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl. Like, E-Man routed him up. He got on the back half of that Chiefs defense, and Jimmy G couldn't make the throw. So that's what really holds people back from, I feel like, completely buying in on Jimmy G. But he's gotten to 3 NFC title games. He should have been to 2 Super Bowls, but he at least got to 1. You look at what Jimmy G has done in his career, and when it's talk about an upgrade or downgrade, I feel like it's kind of a take your pick. I mean, maybe it's a slight upgrade, but if anything, I feel like it's a neutral move, and here's why. Again, it doesn't help with Darren Waller going to the Giants, of course, hours before we went live, but we wanted to really get focused in on the ton of news that we got on the show tonight. Darren Waller's trade to the Giants will be on Friday's episode, y'all, March 17th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Be there. But that was going to be a safety blanket for Jimmy Garoppolo, really, having Darren Waller at that point. And I know the main point that's looked at, right, is Jimmy G has been to 3 NFC title games. He's been to a Super Bowl, but he also had a defense that was averaging the 9th best in yards. And get ready for this one, the 2nd best in points the last 4 years, which was his main time as a starter. The 49ers over the last 4 years have had an average of the 9th best defense in yards and the 2nd best defense's points. Second best defense in points. Derek Carr never had a top 15 defense in his 9-year career, damn near 10-year tenure. The whole decade he spent with the Raiders, never had over a top 15 defense. I don't even think he had over a top 20, top 19 defense. I looked at it when we broke down, the Saints signing Derek Carr, and I appreciate everybody as well blowing that up on YouTube. One of my best videos out there right now. It always feels good when you get to talk about the team you really love and people receive it well. But you look at Derek Carr has now carried the Raiders time and time again. I'm not saying he's carried them to big parts, but making them more competitive than I believe they would have been with other quarterbacks, given the defense that he was in. I mean, for Christ's sake, wearing the Drew Brees jersey, we saw the multiple years of 7 and 9 where Drew Brees is putting up 4,800 yards, 5,200 yards, 47 touchdowns, 44 touchdowns, and the Saints are literally giving up 28 and 32 points a game. Derek Carr was kind of in the similar situation, again, not having a great defense in his time with the Raiders, but now you're going to have Jimmy G having to battle a horrible defense while Derek Carr, he's a big-time baller. He's a big-time competitor. I think he's more talented than Jimmy G, but of course he doesn't have the wins and the places he's been to back it up. But again, Derek Carr never had that defense that Jimmy G has always been able to lean on, whether it was in the Patriot days. We know Tom Brady, I think 16 of Tom Brady's 20 years in New England, he had a top 10 defense in scoring. So essentially, Garoppolo had the same type of characteristics being with the 49ers as well. But Jimmy was never asked to be a big-time gamer. Jimmy was never asked to be a big-time competitor, to make a big-time throw, to win the game on his arm like Derek Carr was. And now that's what the Raiders are getting. And now that's what he's going to be asked to do. And having said that, that seems like a downgrade to me. So to sum it all up, Derek Carr is more talented, but not as much of a winner, while Jimmy G is very textbook, but can game manage you into a win. Take your pick. That's why it kind of feels like a lateral move. Again, very surprising. Raiders had to go somewhere. I'm glad another quarterback domino fell nonetheless. But, I actually had it on the lineup. Would these players potentially be requesting a trade and Darren Waller to the Giants for a 3rd-round pick? Like, that was surprising in itself because Darren Waller coming off back-to-back injury-riddled seasons. I actually had the pleasure of meeting him. Shout out to Jay the Plug. You're an awesome dude for letting me sit in on that Darren Waller interview. But just seeing that, in the middle of a contract, I was like, I don't believe he's the agent, for a up. Clearly they had to deal with a who got out of town for them. TJ Hawkinson came from where did he come from? The Lions, excuse me. I'm totally got it all mixed up. Darby said, I really thought the Raiders were going to draft a quarterback. And here's the thing, just to stay on that for a second. Again, and maybe it's because Gruden was there, and is it Mayock that's the GM? Is he the one with like the 12-year-old kid's haircut, or what's his name?
No,
I can't remember his name.
Mike Mayock was a coach, I think.
I can't remember the name. The GM of the Raiders. God help me out.
His name is his last name is Davis.
Oh, Mark Davis.
Mark Davis. There you
Mark
go.
Davis.
I should know this
Yeah.
because the Aces GM is.
Yeah. Mark Davis. Right. It's just like we saw them. They watch Alabama in a playoff game and they take Alex Leatherwood, and Alex Leatherwood's been a bust. They've had multiple players they've drafted. It's been a bust. And it's because they watch them at the Combine, in the Rose Bowl. They don't watch them in the bad games where they struggled, and these other analysts are taking it into account, putting them on these big boards, making these mock drafts. I want to go ahead and say it while I'm on record. The Raiders would be that team to be idiots and pull the trigger on Anthony Richardson at 7. Anthony Richardson has great upside. There's no question about that. I don't think you're bringing in Jimmy G with where you're at in this draft class. You're in 7th. You can make a couple of moves. Like, you can tweak something, dig into the books, make the phone calls, look at the depth chart, check out the cap, whatever you have to do.
Yep.
They got a draft. I hope they don't take AR. It'd be nice to see them swoop up and steal the draft, maybe trade with the Panthers, get into one, really mess everybody's day up. But yeah, I really think that would be interesting. That man really has the worst haircut in the NFL. That man really has the worst haircut in centuries. Someone put a 99-cent bowl on his head and just trimmed around it, dude. Like, it's tough. It's so tough. I appreciate everybody jumping in the comments as well. You know, I'll always engage with you guys. I just read a comment on Facebook that said Matt Ryan is San Francisco because they're collecting quarterbacks like Infinity Stones to prevent last year from happening again. I'm crying. If you were really about to tell me, though, Matt Ryan to the 49ers, I probably would have cut the whole rest of the show and just been like, Marcus, we got to go at it right now. But no, we're not going to go there.